vehicles to transport their inmates.
That's a good point.
Right?
Well, what we did in court, I believe in exposing a gun in a room. If we can take the moral justification that they still enjoy, then the more people will not see them as the good guy. That's very, very bad for them. Very good for us. Our job as anarchists and activists is to strip away and show that they don't have a moral high ground here. And so when you see things like in Ferguson, where the police were losing the moral high ground, things got ugly. And they were getting out of control. And I applaud that. Not the looting and stuff like that, but the non-compliance and the civil disobedience. Yeah. I would like to see more civil disobedience as far as the tax codes come out of that. Yeah. Exposing the gun in the room is always a very effective thing to do. It really underscores everything that I recommend that we do when we're in court. And so we did that this week where we brought out the gun in the room. And we were able to get witnesses within the first minute of a cross-examination to prove that they were perjuring themselves. Mm-hmm. And I understand they're caught in the middle. So one of the questions was, you look at the witness, and as far as I know, I don't know anyone. I'm not saying I'm the original one here, and I'm certainly not claiming any kind of IP. Well, one of the questions that I think that everybody should ask a witness, and we did this, it was very, very effective, where you say to the witness, who forced you to testify today? I'm not being forced to testify. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm mistaken. You're not on the subpoena. I'm on the subpoena. All right, I'm a little confused. You just said nobody was forcing you to testify. You're doing it freely, but you're under subpoena. That's right. Yeah. You know, and the jury's bewildered, like, what the hell is he doing? He just proved perjury. The witness is not credible. Mm-hmm. But you're exposing the gun in the room.
Yeah.
Well, so we even said, well, I had the guy I was working with, I had him ask, I said, it was I had written it down for him because we knew we would get resistance to this because they're terrified of the judge and the IRS coming after them for saying something like that because it makes the prosecution look bad. Well, it should. And so he said to the judge, could you please instruct the witness on what would happen if they refused to comply with your subpoena? And he's like, oh, I'm not going to get involved. You are. You're the only reason why they're here. You forced them to be here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it was that. It's when you go and you rip out the moral ground that they stand on. I mean, it collapses from there. You just showed with just a few questions the witness just committed a felony for the prosecution. They are so. What that does to me, say that evidence. We always look at the data, right? That evidence that they perjured themselves in the first minute of a cross-examination tells me they are so afraid or so biased in favor of the prosecution, they will actually perjure themselves rather than tell the truth and make the prosecution look bad. Yeah. How the hell could you possibly get a fair trial under those circumstances?
Have you ever made a judge like so angry that he like, I don't know, like send you away or what do you call that? Hold you in contempt of court or anything like that?
I wrote about in Adventures in Legal Land, Sid Weiss, who was in the Mesa Justice Court. No, Mesa City Court. Mm-hmm. He got so upset with me and it was so visibly upset and screaming that the cops didn't do anything to me.
Really? They didn't?
Yeah, they did nothing. They didn't haul me away. They were like, what? What the hell is going on, Mark? And in fact, the prosecutor, Bill Burke, a week later or so, when I went to the pretrial, he said to me, it's in Adventures, he said, what the hell did you say to Sid to make him go go crazy like that? I mean, the guy was bonkers. And I thought I was going to get a judge to actually have a stroke or a spontaneous nosebleed. Oh, kind of had a thing going with someone online who would be the first one to do that. And I thought Sid was going to be it.
Oh, shoot.
So I said, you heard about that? He says, we all heard about what you did to Sid.
So what, you just caught him in a fallacy or something?
Maybe? Well, what happened was I was asking for evidence. and I wasn't going to take a fallacy. I wanted the evidence the prosecution had given to prove his argument there was jurisdiction over me. That's not the judge's burden; it's the prosecutor's.
Yeah.
And he gets, Mark, you are the most difficult man I've ever dealt with. And I said, I'm very easy to get along with, but when you try to con me, I'm not going to stand for it. You play it straight with me, Sid, and we'll get along just fine. You try to lie to me, you try to put it over, and he just exploded. Get me the cop, get me the...
Wow.
And I'm just standing there calm. But that's it. He's trying to put something over on me. I'm half Sicilian. I'm from Long Island. My family was from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
we didn't take too well to that. That was one of the few things I learned to value growing up. Mm-hmm. Don't take anybody's word for anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what about your family, and how do they feel about what all your adventures?
Well, my wife is pretty much an anarchist, and I believe my children are also. I've always taught them that we live our lives by just a couple of rules. And that is, you're not the boss of me, which my kids understand, and that you don't order people around and use force to control them. Because you don't want that, which led to the second one we teach them is you treat others the way you want to be treated. Or that you don't do to other people what you don't want done to you. Mm-hmm. It's a very simple way to live your life. And I said, if you live your life that way, you'll be happy, especially if you realize you're not entitled to a thing. Mm-hmm. The world, or anybody in it, doesn't owe you anything. And if you remember that, you'll be doing pretty good. So, my kids have seen the bureaucrats firsthand screaming.
Really? Wow.
Screaming at me.
So they come to the court with you to watch you?
Well, they came with me one time, it was a non-government attack, and I was trying to pay, and the clerk just didn't understand, and she wouldn't accept the money. And I said, look, I'm late. I'm going to be late to an appointment. Let me just pay for this. And she said, sir, you have to file an answer. I said, I filed a motion to dismiss. You didn't accept it because I didn't pay. So let me pay so that you can accept my motion.
IP, how do you feel about intellectual property as an anarchist?
Well, I think it's obvious. Yeah, I don't. I think it's a ridiculous concept. From beginning to end, and that doesn't even include the fact that at least now it relies on force. It relies on the guns of government to actually enforce it. The idea is completely ridiculous. I mean the idea, and I write about that in the book, and it's because it has to be your idea, right? Well, how many original thoughts have any of us had?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember I was reading someplace that how can you have ownership of patterns? Like there's patterns in nature, models. Nobody has ownership of those, right? You can freely use those, and now we have with the internet and with you can copy anything. You can get through what is it, Pirate Bay. You can get copies of whatever you want, but. I talk about this with my brother. He's big into rap, and he's saying, but what if somebody spent years doing something? Don't you think they need protection? But the question is, how far are you willing to go? Like, are you really willing to throw someone in a rape cage for copying your song? Is that
sure?
Right?
And that's what the entire concept of property can be boiled down to. That it boils down to, if the initiation of physical force is always wrong, then a lot of the concept of property starts to fall apart. Mm. And I think what really started getting me thinking about that, and I think the concept of property is good and bad. It has been the basis of some great innovations, continues to be, but it has also been the foundation for most of the world's genocides and carnages. Mm-hmm. It is every war is fought over property. Mm-hmm. Everyone, right or wrong or whatever we feel about it, they're always fought over property. Mm-hmm. I used to, so the example that I've given before is, like tomorrow I'm driving back out to California, so you've got these huge stretches of the Arizona desert that you go into in California, and you'll see these signs where somebody in San Diego or Hawaii is claiming to own the desert. And so, you got a lot of time to think out there, and you start thinking, well, if somebody claimed to own the world, we would laugh. We would laugh, right? Yeah. So that's not a problem there. So, okay, well, what if they claimed, okay, that's ridiculous. All right, we get it. Well, what if someone claimed to own a continent? They owned Asia. Mm-hmm. Well, it's still laughable. Mm-hmm. At what point do we keep reducing this down to where it becomes plausible and it becomes a good idea? And there's still, to me, it seems to be land that you can work, but still, there's still so much fuzziness there. It's just not. I guess someone had called and a friend of mine had said, because I said I was willing to use deadly force if someone broke into my home, and that gets you thinking. Well, it's one thing to protect my family, but is it another thing if I'm willing to kill someone just because they're on my property won't leave? I mean, it would have to be more. They'd have to be doing some kind of threat. There would have to be another nonviolent way to be able to resolve that. And I don't have all the. I don't know. I don't know the answers yet.
So, because the way I resolve that is, if you can take a piece of property that's crude and that's unadulterated, and then you make something valuable that other people are willing to pay for, the fruits of your labor. To me, that's what property is that when you can transform something into usable and valuable things that other people cherish, right? And if you can do that, then I would say that's proof of ownership to me. Whereas let's say eminent domain, right? Go